Aquí andamos en Phoenix esperando la decisión del 5 circuito que ya llegó ayer. Muchísimas gracias a todos que mandaron esa información. Lo voy a revisar ahorita. ¿Qué significa esa decisión y dónde va ahorita? Primero voy a empezar en inglés. Si quieren español, no se preocupe, voy a hacer el español pronto, pero primero hablamos en inglés, ¿verdad? Ya tenemos preguntas empezando aquí. Maritza is asking, now that the Fifth Circuit, Maritza's getting straight to it. I appreciate that, Maritza. Just going straight to the punch here. Now that the Fifth Circuit remanded part of the case back to Hannan, how long does Hannan have to render such a final opinion? So we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but that's fine. So what Maritza is saying here, informing everybody, yesterday was a decision from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, right? What they ruled on in short was that they want the case to go back to Judge Hannan to determine, based on Biden's new procedure for DACA, which is the same as the 2012 memorandum essentially put out by Obama, whether or not that will result in any difference in the case. And how long, it goes back to the same judge that sent it to the Fifth Circuit, which is Judge Hannan in Texas. How long does Judge Hannan to render a final opinion? There's no deadline. There's no date by which he must have a ruling on it. What likely will happen will, the case now being remanded to him, he'll probably set a status conference and ask all parties to attend, and perhaps a briefing order about whether or not anything is different based on the new memorandum, and likely have a hearing where he'll give both sides an opportunity to present their case. There and after, he'll probably issue a decision that he's probably already has written a few weeks after that. So I do expect it to be relatively soon. With this many attorneys involved, there's always scheduling issues, especially as we get closer to the holiday season. But I do expect that we will see a decision within the next 3 or 4 months, I would guess. Just a complete guess of mine, there is no deadline by which he must issue a ruling now that the remand has taken place. It could take even longer, right? If the judge decides we need a full trial on it because it's a new memorandum, I don't think he will. I think the decision is already written for reasons I'm going to go into in just a minute. But yes, thank you for the question. There is no deadline about when he must give the decision. All right, so going backwards, we had the Fifth Circuit decision yesterday. What did it say? Right, you've seen it all over the news already. You've seen CNN reporting, everybody else reporting. In a nutshell, what you have to know in terms of the news is that the decision yesterday from the Fifth Circuit upheld every ruling that Judge Hannan made in the last case, which was DACA renewals can still continue, advanced parole can still continue, no new applications can be ruled on. That is all the same. If you woke up yesterday morning before the decision, the state of DACA would be the same yesterday morning as it is today. The difference is it was a legal opinion that certainly gives us insight as to what's going to happen in the future, but as far as practical differences for a DACA recipient, for someone who employs someone with DACA, for anybody else who cares about DACA, DACA stays exactly as it was yesterday. Good news, but in the same sense is nothing but anxiety and stress for everybody that has DACA and everybody that cares about the issue. So it's ridiculous that we can't finally get down to simply a ruling. But when we read the decision, I think it's being oversimplified by a lot of folks in the media saying, oh, it's being sent back to Judge Hannan to determine if the latest Biden memo is going to be any different. It's not, folks. It's even in this ruling, right? They don't issue decisions that are 40-something pages long if it doesn't have any significance or arguments in it. Now, the Biden administration lost the original DACA case in front of Hannan on the reasoning, number one, that they did not submit the DACA program for notice and comment to the public. That was the number one reason. How was that cured? That was the recent memo by Biden who published it for notice and comment. Hopefully you commented, and the final rule is issued and it's supposed to go into effect at the end of this month. So number one reason why Judge Hannan said DACA needed to be done with, that's been taken care of. That problem's been solved. The other issue, though, there was a number two issue, right? The number two issue was, even if DACA was done correctly, like Biden went and did it this time correctly, let me read to you. We're going to start getting to the nitty gritty. We're doing the law professor stuff now, right? There's another reason why DACA, the state of Texas and other states argue, is unlawful. Here it says, reading straight from the decision, the states contend and the district court held that DACA also violates the APA's substantive requirements. What does that mean? The APA, that's the law, having to do with administrative procedures, requires courts to hold unlawful and set aside agency action that is arbitrary, capricious, and abuse of discretion, or otherwise not in accordance with the law, or in excess of statutory jurisdiction, authority, or limitations, or short of statutory right, right? Interestingly enough, this is the same law, the same holding within the law that shot down Trump's canceling the DACA program, because the judges there found it was arbitrary and capricious, the manner in which he canceled the program. The Supreme Court upheld that. Now here we have a different set of judges using the exact same law that are saying, because of this law, right? Let me shift over a few pages here. They have legal argument, legal argument, legal argument. What is the conclusion of the Fifth Circuit? The conclusion of the Fifth Circuit says, like DAPA, DACA is foreclosed by Congress's careful plan. The program is manifestly contrary to the statute. DACA violates the substantive requirements of the APA. We already have, I'm going to put it up here, right here, right? I can share it on the screen too, but let's just look at it right here. There it says, like DAPA, DACA is foreclosed by Congress's careful plan. The program is manifestly contrary to the statute. DACA violates the substantive requirements of the APA. Let me put this language up here again, because this is what Judge Hannan already has written down his decision. That's going to come out late into the year, early next year. It's going to say the exact same thing. Save this video, pull it out when it comes out, look for this quote, right? Hannan's going to say the exact same thing. Okay, great, Biden, you went back and you did it right. You did notice and comment, but guess what? You overstepped your boundaries. The only people that can create such a right is Congress. So we will get rid of the program, and Congress, it's your turn to act. What are the states asking for? The state of Texas and the other states here. Let me just give you all the states, because it's good to badmouth people that are doing bad things in the world. State of Texas, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Nebraska, South Carolina, West Virginia, Kansas, and Mississippi. Those are the states that are in this lawsuit, in the DACA program. The states are asking for 2 years, essentially, for the DACA program to continue because of the reliance interest. What does that mean? People apply to the program, they have jobs, they have lives, they have mortgages, credit cards associated with the Social Security number they got. So keep the program alive essentially for 2 years, let people renew one more time maybe, and then the program is over and done with. That is the ask from these states that they will ask Judge Hannan. Supreme Court made very clear again, right? You can't just simply cancel this program because there's been such a reliance interest on it for so many years. So Judge Hannan's order will likely say, phase out the program in 2 years. Maybe he'll give more. Maybe he'll give more than that. We don't know, right? But nonetheless, that's what the decision will come out and say. Now, is there any silver lining? Is there anything positive that we can take away from the decision? I mean, they're leaving a little bit of hope. We know how Hannan's going to rule. We now know how the Fifth Circuit's going to rule. They just said it in this decision. So when the government appeals that, they're going to say the exact same thing, that DACA violates the APA. It needs to be Congress that acts, not the president. So DACA is invalidated. But the only possibility of leaving a little bit of hope here, it says at the end of the decision, in our view, the defendants have not shown that there's likelihood they will succeed on the merits, meaning DACA will lose. but we are mindful that in similar DAPA case, the Supreme Court was equally divided over our judgment. We also recognize DACA has had profound significance to recipients and many others in the 10 years since its adoption. Given the uncertainty of final disposition and the inevitable disruption that would arise from the lack of continuity of stability, we preserve the stay as to existing recipients. That is saying right there, like, hey, look it. We're going to let DACA, we think DACA is against the law. The law clearly says that DACA is not allowed to happen. Biden was not allowed to do it. Obama was not allowed to do it. We don't believe it. But because of the reliance interest and because the Supreme Court might rule differently, we'll go ahead and let DACA continue for anybody that's in the program. So perhaps, even though we have a new realignment of the Supreme Court, perhaps we get surprised again and get a positive decision from them, in 2025 or something like that. But it's very clear where Hannan, the Fifth Circuit's going to rule on it, right? Question here. Madison from YouTube asks, how is the new DACA going to affect EAD cards? Would you suggest working on AOS soon for those who are married and on DACA? So the current ruling yesterday does not impact at all opportunity to renew. So renew. Anybody, when you're up for renewal, renew 100%. Given the current state of politics, honestly, if it was Biden or Trump in office, if I know someone that's married to a U.S. citizen, they're otherwise admissible into the country, there's really no reason not to submit for adjustment through your USC spouse. I see no benefit to simply renewing DACA, right? We want to make sure that you're admissible, because again, you can get DACA. You can get DACA and be inadmissible to the country, meaning one person can have their DACA approved, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have your residency approved. There could be things in your past that prevent you from getting residency, but they're not a problem for DACA. Right? For instance, someone that left the country and picked up a certain bar and came back. I think we've even seen DACA folks with removal orders that wouldn't be able to be adjusted. We have to take care of that first. So you definitely want to screen first to make sure the person is eligible for AOS or consular processing. And the difference there is legal entry or with advanced parole or military parole in place or 245I, someone put a petition for you or perhaps mom or dad before 2001, you might be able to do what's called adjustment of status here within the United States, not have to leave. You don't have legal entry, you don't have advanced parole through DACA, you don't have military parole in place, you don't have 245I, you don't have a Killenton entrance, then you'll have to do the 601A waiver, perhaps, depending on how long you've had DACA for, and then eventually go to your country of origin for the final step, which is called consular processing. Everybody's always afraid of that, right? Big fear. I totally understand why people have that fear. But nonetheless, if you have that avenue, no reason not to take it. And a reminder, folks, in addition to consular processing adjustment of status, if you're married to a U.S. citizen, a legal permanent resident, and they're abusing, I'm not talking about you, let me take you off because I don't want to imply anything, right? I'm not talking about Masson. If you're married to a USC or LPR and they are abusing you, if they're holding it over your head about, I'm going to get you deported, or if you don't listen to me, then I'm not going to get your papers for you. There's a separate law that we can get you papers without them ever even knowing about it. It's called VAWA. A lot of people don't know that. So, please spread the word that if you're the victim of abuse from your USC or LPR spouse, there's also an avenue we can get you papers, and it doesn't require leaving the country as well. All right. Sorry for my rambling there about immigration law, but that's what it is. I'm going to switch to Espanol. Right, I'm going to switch over to Spanish, and I apologize, those have been like 15 minutes now, and I was shooting for that 15-minute mark to switch over to Spanish. If you have questions in English, of course, keep them coming, just like the great Issa O'Neill here just did. Thank you, Ray. I have a question. Can DACA be renewed now? if the expiration date is in November of next year. It's not one of those that I think the program is going to end so fast. I think people have to apply even if they're a year out. That was the fear with the first Hannan decision, that he was going to issue an order that just took away the program, swept it from underneath our feet, and we were encouraging people to apply even if they were far out. I don't have that same concern anymore after the Supreme Court decision. After the Supreme Court decision, they made very clear there's a reliance interest. You can't simply take away the program from one day to the next. So I would think someone that's up for renewal next November could still wait for normal processing time and send it out closer to that date. That's what I would do. I wouldn't waste the money and do it again now. Thanks for the question, Ethan. Ok, ya comunidad, ustedes quieren saber qué está pasando con el caso de DACA. Mi placer. Lo que pasó ayer era una decisión del Corte de Apelación de 5 Circuito que hicieron decisión diciendo que DACA es igual hoy que era ayer. Si nada más, si quiere ya empezar a ver unos TikToks, un hombre bailando ahí en Chihuahua, ya puede ir por eso, porque realmente es todo lo que tiene que saber sobre la decisión de ayer, ¿verdad? Esa decisión dice que personas todavía pueden renovar, pueden pedir advance parole, y las personas que ya aplicaron, pero nunca están en el programa, todavía están en la misma situación, esperando. No hay cambios. Pero ¿qué significa la decisión de ayer? Lo mandaron para atrás al mismo juez, Hannan, que instruyó DAPA, el mismo juez que dijo que DACA era en contra de la Constitución, para decirle, danos una decisión otra vez, juez Hannan, basado en la nueva anuncio que hizo Biden. El problema ahí es que la nueva posición de Biden es el viejo posición de Obama. So, esa decisión de 40 y tantas páginas va a ser los mismos argumentos legales que ya pusieron. Que el 5 Circuito aquí está diciendo que no está de acuerdo con el programa de DACA. Pero como hay un nuevo cambio que va a empezar el 31 de octubre de 2022, quiere que el juez bajo del corte en Texas, Hannan, primero tiene chance de hablar con todos los abogados, escuchar los argumentos de nuevo, que van a ser los mismos argumentos, para esperar una decisión de él. Cuando él pone su decisión, que va a estar en contra de DACA, que regresa otra vez al 5 Circuito, y después de la decisión de ellos, regresa al Corte Suprema. Había dos razones por qué el juez Hannan lo negó primera vez DACA. Uno era porque Obama no puso ese argumento en una posición que se llama Notice and Comment. No presentaron en una publicación para que el público pudiera hacer comentarios antes de hacerlo. Nada más dijo, ok, aquí está DACA, aquí empezamos. Lo que debía hacer es ponerle ahí en las regulaciones federales diciendo, dame sus comentarios, revisarlos, después poner el programa. Eso es lo que Biden acaba de hacer. Ya van a publicar, va a ser formalmente el fin de este mes. So, ese primer argumento Hannan no tiene, porque Biden ya hizo correcto. Pero hay un segundo argumento que el corte aquí dice también que el programa de DACA, aunque si lo mandaron bien al público, es en contra de la ley. ¿Por qué? Porque es una ley que el Congreso debe pasar relacionada a la migración y el presidente debe firmar, no nada más un anuncio que un presidente debe hacer. So, eso es lo que va a poner el juez Hannan. Y si, Norma, eso es cierto, no nuevas aplicaciones en octubre. Todavía la parada que puso el juez Hannan es la misma parada. El Corte de Apelación dijeron, la misma orden del juez Hannan queda igual, aunque el 31 de octubre de 2022 hay un nuevo programa que entra, no parece que lo van a seguir en la administración de Biden ni ese corte dando permiso a decisiones en las aplicaciones nuevas. Entonces, regresando al juez Hannan, va a ser a algunas audiencias, no sé si meses, 3, 4, 6 meses después, él va a anunciar su decisión, que va a decir que el programa de DACA es en contra de la ley, pero no va a terminarlo inmediato, porque el Corte Suprema ya anunció en su caso antes que tiene que tomar en cuenta que hay cientos, miles de personas que están trabajando bajo DACA y tienen su vida basada en ese programa. El estado de Texas y otros estados están pidiendo que lo termine el programa 2 años después de la decisión de Hannan. No sé qué decisión va a poner él ahí, si da 4 años, si da chance a todos de renovar una vez más, 2 veces más. No es seguro, pero él va a decir algo, ¿verdad? Entonces no hay razón, yo pienso que deben pronto renovar o algo. Creo que tenemos tiempo para ver qué va a ser la decisión del juez Hannan. Después la apelación a 5 circuito, ellos van a hacer el mismo argumento, donde tenemos un poquitito de posibilidad, es en el Corte Suprema, igual que el programa de DACA antes. Ellos hicieron decisión 5-4 que el Trump no podía quitarlo, a ver qué dice el Corte Suprema esta vez. Todos en el público, todos están diciendo, en vez de esperar jueces, es tiempo del Congreso para hacer acción. Y eso es mi opinión formal que voy a decir a todos ustedes, todo el público, y correr el voz. No debemos esperar más decisión del juez, argumentos de abogados. Ya es tiempo. El Congreso tiene el poder de poner en la mesa del presidente Biden un programa oficial. La Cámara de Representantes y el Senado pasa algo como DACA y lo pasa al presidente para firmar y ya no hay quejas. Porque eso es el argumento de Texas, que debe ser un acto del Congreso, no puede ser un acto de un presidente independiente. Para quitar ese argumento, ¿qué tenemos que hacer? Pues mandarle al Congreso para que ellos tomen acción por fin. Al fin de día es lo que tiene que hacer. Y es lo que pienso que va a pasar, pero no hasta hay una decisión negativa. Mil disculpas a todos que están. Buenos días, China, gracias por que nos está viendo. Muy, muy importante. No quiero que nadie ande asustado de un cambio grande o que piense en una mentira de alguien diciendo, dame dinero porque cambió el programa. Todo queda igual hoy como era ayer. Pero sí vamos a esperar una decisión del juez Hannan en los siguientes meses, que termine el programa, pero va a ser años en el futuro, mínimo. Y después apelación al circuito, después acción de Corte Suprema. Mínimo tenemos 1, 2, 3 decisiones de cortes, 3 videos más que tenemos que hacer antes que a lo mejor el Congreso tome acción para hacer algo. También no quiero que la gente que tiene DACA y escuche ese video o noticias, dicen, pues entonces nada más tengo 3 o 4 años en el país. Yo sí pienso, con mucha confianza, que cuando el programa es ya terminado oficialmente, es cuando el Congreso va a hacer una acción. Y van a hacerlo formalmente, pasar una poquito reforma para las personas que estaban en el programa. Fácil para mí para decir, porque soy abogado, soy ciudadano, nació aquí en el país, no tengo el miedo de estar aquí con un programa que cada 6 meses, cada año tiene una decisión de corte que resulta en un ataque del corazón, ¿verdad? Por los que están viviendo bajo eso. Mil disculpas por eso. Son puro política, están jugando con las vidas y la salud mental de ustedes. Pero pienso al fin de día vamos a tener una resultado buena, pero mientras sufre mucho mentalmente y no es justo. Sí quiero que tenemos una decisión más pronto del Congreso, dando chance de arreglar y camino a ciudadanía, pero mientras la programa siga igual. Y como siempre, un gusto. Si tiene preguntas, comentarios, si no está viendo en vivo, de todos modos, pónmelo aquí y yo intento a contestar. Si es algo privado, manden un mensaje privado o márquenos aquí 602-910-4040. Y como siempre, si les gustó el video, me puede hacer el favor de compartirlo o pone subscribe, toca la campana si está viendo en YouTube. Muchísimas gracias a todos y que tiene excelente día. Nos vemos.